Welcome to This Week in Business with the owner of Erickson Strategic Marketing Solutions, Cynthia Erickson. Cynthia talks with local business owners and community leaders to gain insight into Chester County's business community and the economic climate. Here is your host, Cynthia Erickson.
Welcome to This Week in Business. I'm Cynthia Erickson, and as always, it's my pleasure to be with you this week, and we have a great show. This week, we've got two folks from Gawthrop Greenwood. We've got Ann Duke and Stephen Olsen. Hello, Ann and Duke. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Excuse me, I said Ann and Duke. Ann Duke and Stephen Olsen. Two people here. Hey, Stephen, how are you?
Doing well, Cynthia. Thanks for having us.
Great. And they're from Gawthrop Greenwood. And later in this hour, we're going to be speaking with Valerie Jester from Brandywine Capital, and she'll be with us later in this hour on This Week in Business. And then later in the week, on This Week in Service, on Fridays from 3 to 4, we'll have Fred from Dragonfly Forest. They work with children. It's a camp for children, and also we'll be speaking with Barclay Friends, specifically Faith Woodward, and we look forward to that. And folks, I'll tell you, I told you last time, we are now booking for 2011, so as I say every week, if you have topic thoughts, specific individual suggestions, folks you'd love to see on the show, please email me at radio@ericssonsms.com, and it'll be my pleasure to read those emails and see if we can get that in the lineup for the 2011. But first, with Ann and Stephen, let me give a little bit of background. Stephen, you are been in law just a couple years now, and you joined Gawthrop Greenwood, and you focus primarily on estate planning and business and tax transactions, correct?
Yep, that's correct. I'm the tax attorney at Gawthrop Greenwood.
Okay, and you recently, I guess it's been 4 years, you graduated from Villanova Law School, and you are a member of the Chester County Bar, and are you living right in Westchester?
I do. I live in the borough, right behind the hospital.
Okay, wonderful.
Makes for a nice commute.
Indeed, it does. And Ann is with us, and Ann has been an attorney for as many years as I've been in marketing, I guess over 25 years.
Which is many.
That's right. We are seasoned, right, Ann?
We are seasoned.
We are indeed. And Ann specializes in business transaction, corporate finance, business and strategic planning, corporate governance, banking and mergers and acquisitions. You've been busy banking,
Very busy,
goodness gracious,
yes.
And you are also the Chester County Treasurer, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So wonderful. And just for our listeners, just to share just a little bit of background on Gawthrop Greenwood, it was founded in 1904, comprised, and this may even be out of date at this time, but I guess about 18 attorneys, that's on average, concentrating in comprehensive practice areas including business transactions, litigation, tax and estate planning, environmental issues, elder law, special education, real estate, family law, employment law, public sector, and government relations. Continuing its strong tradition of community service, the firm provides a complete listing and links to some of the most useful and requested resources in business, legal, government, and media issues. And I know that your firm also does a lot of, community service work, amidst all your attorneys. So a great thing. We wanted to talk a little bit about taxes, tax amnesty. We actually had you guys scheduled back in April, and of course the topic was going to be extremely timely. We're going to talk about tax amnesty, but still, as we sit here today in November, I'm kind of starting to do some prep on my P&L for taxes, so we're talking a little bit about tax amnesty. But share with us, just for our listeners, just a little bit about what's changed in recently with the tax laws.
Well, in 2010, we saw the last years of the Bush tax cuts, and that affects the income taxes and the estate tax, the federal estate tax. And moving into 2011, there's going to be a whole lot of changes. 2011 is going to see the maximum income tax rate for individuals increase from 35%, I believe, to 39.5%.
What's that from? What? Say that again, those percentages?
35% to 39.5%. And that's for ordinary income. For capital gains, the rates will be increasing from a maximum rate of 15% to a maximum rate of 20%. You probably were getting preferred dividend treatment, capital gains rates for that, 15%. Yeah. That's going to become ordinary income again, so those rates will skyrocket. In addition, there's going to be a host of credits that are going to be expiring after this year. A lot of the energy credits that everyone heard about for energy-saving items in your house, along with the hybrid credits, are all set to expire.
You know, I know if you have window treatments or windows put in or shutters, all kinds of things. I know they're really, the last 2 years I know we have been able to reap the benefits of that, just the programs out there, because we had different things done to our windows. And then by the individual that installed it. By the way, were you aware that there's a tax incentive that, so those have been wonderful, and the last couple of years I've experienced that.
Yep. So
those are gone. Those will be going away.
All of this should be said with a caveat that Congress has experienced some changes with the last election, and a lot of people are pretty optimistic that a lot of the tax rates will remain lower, will be changed back to the lower rates from the Bush tax cuts, and that some of these credits might come back. I know that I put in a sliding glass door last month to make sure that I got in before the credit expired, but it's quite possible that next year these will return with the new Congress.
Interesting. And as far as the tax amnesty, what is the downside for businesses who did not participate?
Well, let me touch on the tax amnesty program real quick. That was in April to June of this year. Pennsylvania, along with a handful of other states, had an amnesty program that allowed tax scofflaws to come forward and say that they owed tax and hadn't been paying it. And when they did that, they only had to pay the tax and half of the interest that was outstanding. They did not have to pay the penalties and the other half of the interest that would have otherwise been assessed on them. So for people who didn't avail themselves to that tax amnesty program, they're going to have to pay all the interest, all the penalties, and now there's an additional 5% penalty of the outstanding tax that'll be added on to all the other penalties for failing to enter into the program.
And how much from the program, do you have a sense of the revenue generated?
The Commonwealth had anticipated to receive about $150 million, I think, and they actually received about $271 million. So they ended up receiving quite a bit more than they had hoped for from that amnesty program. And those numbers are a little outdated. They could be higher now.
Yeah. And in your area of expertise, as far as taxes go, what is your read on the program? Has that affected your clients?
Stephen addresses more the tax amnesty issue. One of the things that I address more often is the estate tax law changes. So I'll speak, if you don't mind, a little bit to that too. There's a tremendous amount of uncertainty right now there. In 2009, if you had $3.5 million, you could pass it to your heirs tax-free. In 2010, you could pass as much as you wanted tax-free. And in 2011, it drops back down to $1 million. So it's very difficult for business owners and individuals to plan their estate tax planning. The estate tax itself is very onerous. It's very high. So obviously people want to plan for that. And the uncertainty right now has just been very, very difficult.
And that puts you, and you've been an attorney over 25 years. Do you find that your client base is, do you have a new influx, or do you find that it becomes generational, where you've got a family and then they're members of the family, so it becomes a generational relationship?
Absolutely. In my practice, particularly, I represent a lot of business owners, and, a lot of times those are passed down from parent to child, so you do see generational issues. To go back to the tax issue, too, and uncertainty, the estate tax laws right now are creating uncertainty. What Stephen talked about with the income tax changes and their sunsetting, there's uncertainty there. Will the Republicans change it? Will the taxes go up? Will they not go up? It's a very difficult time to advise clients, I would say, and I think Stephen will agree, because we just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
We're making sure that we get a minimum, coverage for their documents, but so a lot of people are taking a wait-and-see approach to the tax changes with that estate tax.
Yeah, and go ahead, what were you saying?
Well, I think business taxes, too, there's just so much uncertainty as to what the tax implications are, both income tax and capital gains for business owners. Those things are very pertinent. And, it's just a very weird environment. Everyone's using the word weird. It's a weird environment because there's so much uncertainty.
I've heard that so many times across all types of business, from all different types of business people. from bankers to lawyers to doctors, that it's a very strange time we're in right now. Indeed it is.